this computer. Okay, we are recording on this computer. Guys, welcome back yet again. And this is absolutely one of my most favorite topics that we're going to be talking about today. It's emotional regulation level 3. The level 3 is by far one of the most amazing things that you will ever hear in your entire life, and most powerful, most impactful. It's something that I think every single person on this planet should do. So I'm super excited to share this with you guys. So the promise today is after this presentation, we'll gain further depth in implementing journaling as a form of regulation. So to gain a different perspective on how we and others view our emotions is the second promise. So you'll gain a new or different perspective on how you and other people view your emotions and a deeper depth. That is the promise of today. So I'm joined again by Stefan. Stefan is facilitating this journey with me. The outcome that we seek is to move from emotional overwhelm to emotional regulation, or from chaos to capacity. That's the easy way of stating this. Understanding how a power higher than ourselves would view our experiences and the emotions we experience. And here we deeply rely on a strength or ability known as empathy. I think empathetic listening, or taking an empathetic stance, or standing in someone else's shoes, the ability to do those things is what's very important for all of us in this specific application of journaling.
So yes, as the diver goes deeper by exploring the dark ravines of the ocean, so too do we delve deeper in our emotions and explore new perspectives on said emotions. So what really stands out for me here, because I remember with on our previous presentation regarding level 2 journaling, there was just a photo of a deep diver, but this is almost like diving just a few leagues deeper under the sea. And I think when it comes to level 3 journaling, that's definitely the case, because it's so much, I would say, even though in describing it, it sounds so simple, I think in the execution, it touches on such a deeper level on our experiences when we are able to kind of like step outside of ourselves and be more empathetic towards our own emotional experiences, bringing a different spin to what we are going through.
And this whole thing about diving, the concept about diving, makes me think about that song that I sang to you, the first person I've ever sang to my entire life. A whole new world. There's a whole new world available under the ocean, you know. And as we explore our emotions, we are exploring a whole new world and greater depths of our being. So we're still talking about the bucket and how to empty the bucket, and obviously opening up the faucet. And this is level 3 of how to do that. And there are 4 steps to this slide that we're going to be showing here. Level 3 journaling, we're going to explain the concepts of that and how that works for you. Handing over the pen, that's the second one. The third one would be gaining a new perspective. And number 4 is deeper regulation.
Okay, so just as level 2 journaling built on the foundations of level 1, so too does level 3 built on level 2. As with the 2 previous levels, we identify 5 emotions we experience since our last journaling opportunity. And even though the structure remains similar, this is the deepest level of emotional regulation, as we are challenged to shift our perspective to be empathetic, like we've said, in a way we might rarely engage in. And I think the next slide will definitely explain that a bit more in depth.
Okay, go for it.
Right, so in level 1, we focus in on how we experience our emotions, while in level 2, we focus on relaying those emotions to someone beyond ourselves. And now in level 3, we imagine how God, as we understand him, would view our emotions, or the higher power that we identify within our level 2. So with level 1, we're going inwards. With level 2, we're projecting our emotions outwards and explaining. While with level 3, it's basically we're handing our emotions over to someone else and imagining how they would experience it. We
So
could view.
sorry,
Go
so
for
the
it.
classic surrendering that the steps talk about, step one talks about so massively. Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Yes. No, no problem. No problem. And yeah, we could view a level 2 as writing to God. However, now we imagine how God would write to us, how he views the emotions, experiences we are having. It is a proverbial handing over of the pen that challenges us to view our emotions from someone else's perspective.
Yeah, guys. So just to expand on that, level 2, we write a letter to God. So level 2 starts with Dear God. Level 3 will start with Dear John, or Dear Stefan, or Dear whoever. And it's handing over the pen. It's like, what would God say to me? And then just writing. That is the whole idea of a step 2, isn't it, Stefan? Not the step 2 of the step 2
Of
page
step
we're talking about.
3.
Yeah, level 3. Yeah.
Right. So the goal is not to write with uttermost accuracy in mind, but to rather step outside of ourselves and view ourselves from a higher perspective. That is definitely something I've experienced and heard of before is, well, I really wouldn't know how God or the higher power I choose would view myself in this. But yeah, the idea isn't to think, okay, this is exactly how God or the higher power of my choice would think of me, but rather to get an inclination, an idea of what would happen if I were to think about what would happen if I gave over the pen. We tend to get lost in our own thoughts and can even get stuck in our ways of thinking. We create and promote a set way of viewing ourselves that rarely makes room for new insights. However, by stepping back and imagining how a power higher than ourselves view our experiences, we can look at our emotions and experiences from a new perspective and thus gain new insight.
Yes, what a wonderful experience and way of putting it. I love the typewriter guy there. He is, I think, well, in this image, it looks like the letters are going up, but I think actually the opposite is happening. Those letters are going down and should actually be coming out of the typewriter there into his heart. That's exactly what we want to be doing. And guys, here we're talking about a higher perspective as well. If you have a relationship with God and you follow Jesus, then absolutely do that. Talk to him or let him talk to you through your pen. But on the other hand, you can use your family if that is a power greater than yourselves, or you can use whatever, nature, or a letter from your dad, or any other perspective, as long as it's a higher perspective and a caring perspective, not a destructive, hateful, but a loving, caring, higher perspective. That's exactly what we're seeking.
And yeah, level 3 journaling is usually linked with the largest amount of regulation. We tend to view ourselves through a very biased and often negative filter, but stepping back can allow us to gain new revelations and acceptance of our emotions. Through this form of journaling, we process and accept our emotions in ways we might not have done before, and it could be very impactful.
Sure, Stefan. I'm thinking about a recent individual that we asked for him to write a letter to his younger version, his younger self. And if I wasn't mistaken, he wrote a letter to his 10-year-old self. And he was just so angry with his 10-year-old self for allowing these things, and that anger was really hitting. And then basically, we asked, or I don't know how he got the idea, but he wrote a letter from his 10-year-old self to himself. And that massively changed a whole bunch of stuff for him. So that is almost like a level 3 journal in reverse. It's like me as the higher power writing to a version of myself that is like maybe a lower power, or like a lesser power. Maybe that's the right word. So that's just a perspective that I haven't considered before. What do you make of that?
No, I think definitely within ourselves, especially within our pasts, because our pasts are usually where a lot of our hurt sits. If we kind of like give the pen over to a version of ourselves way back when, whenever that back when might be, whether it be back to childhood, back to being a teenager, young adult, or however, to hand over that pen could also give you an opportunity to look at yourself differently. Because I've also done this before, where I really just realize by allowing the child version of myself to speak to me of the things I've gone through, I kind of like realize just how you almost get back to a childlike perspective as well. You think back as to how you would have experienced things now, and how a younger version of you would look upon the situations now. And it gives so much more insight, because we get stuck. I think we all get kind of like stuck in where we currently are, or how things have been for a long period of time. That if we look from a perspective that is outside of that stuckness, we gain a lot more, I would say, not just clarity about the past, but also clarity on how to handle the present and how to handle it better and to heal from it. I think there's a lot of healing that comes from giving a voice to those experiences that might not have had a voice before.
Sure, very good. The application story. Even though I could feel my relationship with God improving, the idea of handing over the pen to him felt strange. How could I imagine how he would look at me? How would I even begin to think what he thought of me? After thinking it through and getting some feedback from the guys in my support network, the battle station, I decided to write from the perspective of a caring father who wants to see his son grow and get the most out of life. As I wrote in this role, I noticed something. From the perspective of God, I was writing about my own experiences with words of encouragement, love, and gentle nudges where I felt I could improve. I realized this was different from how I would usually write. I started to understand that sometimes when I would journal, there would be a certain amount of negativity and critique present that I would direct onto myself. Sometimes valid, but other times not. Writing from a God perspective started to show me how self-critical and destructive my own thinking could become, and it clicked for me. These words of encouragement and love would not always be said, especially not from myself. Suddenly, frustrations did not seem as unmanageable, and small victories seemed like a reason to celebrate. My outlook on my own thinking changed. The words I wrote from God's perspective hit harder for me personally, and I could feel relief cover me. Even though it felt strange to do, I could see how this form of journaling can assist me in changing the way I look at myself and what I felt. Sure, good story there. Stefan, please,
Yes.
you can take the model here.
So yeah, basically just how I see this model is God or the higher power of your choice. And yeah, it's almost like it's just going downwards. Of course, like we've said, the power we choose is a power we regard higher than ourselves. So it's moving downwards. Instead of like with level 2 journaling, it would be more like going upwards. We're giving God the pen to write to us. And this can be a very relieving experience that empties our capacity, that gives us more capacity at the end of the day. But something I also want to just add here is I think for a lot of people, it's not necessarily going to be an experience that comes easily. I know, for example, for me, it was initially extremely strange. And it was almost like learning once again how to speak, if I can say it like that. And I think with time, a person gets into a rhythm and a groove when things really just click, and you really get the benefit out of the level 3 journaling. But I think it also just comes with practice and exposing yourself to it on a continuous basis.
Guys, and this is absolutely something worth fighting for. the metaphor. Stefan, you can take this as well.
So, yeah, no, for me, I always look towards God as a guiding light. And I think through the journaling, the level 3 journaling, we allow ourselves to be guided by that which we find to be important for us. We find that guiding light within ourselves. And I think that guiding light helps us to bring us kind of like back to towards safer waters. I know for a fact that with my own thinking, I tend to, it feels like I drift, but when I come into contact with God, it really just helps me. It brings me back to a grounded level towards safer waters to travel or to traverse the challenges as well. Not necessarily just being in comfort, but to know how to traverse the challenges because I have a guiding light that shows me the way I need to go.
Stefan, have you ever heard anybody share a level 3 journal in the recovery battle stations?
No, I have not. Now come to think of it, I haven't heard anyone share a level 3 journal entry before.
Wow, that's interesting. But let's not explore that too much. Maybe a brave soul would do that, and maybe they will break through a barrier that's never been broken through before. So the context, still busy with emotional regulation, the bucket, we're coming to the conclusion of the emotional regulation steps. There's one more video left, and then we do all of that. So the choice. So bearing in mind everything that you have learned up until now, what will you do with all of this information? Will you utilize this level of journaling to gain new insights? Or will you refuse to go deeper into your own emotions through this form of journaling? The choice really is yours. And hint, hint, the answer is A. That's the right answer. Utilize this level of journaling to gain new insights. That's what we would like you to do. Therefore, the call to action, incorporate level 3 journaling into your journaling schedule. The new entry ratio will be as follows. For each 4 level 1 entries written, you should write 2 level 2 entries, and then you would write 1 level 3 entry. In other words, 4 to 1. Okay, so to understand this, you would need maybe a piece of paper. So you do 2 level 1 journals, then you do a level 2 journal. Then you go back to 2 level 1 journals, you do another level 2 journal. Then you have done a total of 2 level 2 journals, which means that now you can do a level 3 journal. That's generally speaking the best ratio to do this in. If you don't understand, please send me or Stefan a message. Stefan, if this is the call to action, what would the challenge be?
The challenge would be, I would say, to just start implementing it. And I would say also to reflect on, after maybe writing a few level 3 journal entries, to reflect on how you are feeling with regards to this. Maybe even just to give feedback after your first level 3 journal entry, whether that be in the group or individually with either me or Kenneth, to give us the feedback of, okay, this is how I'm experiencing level 3 journaling. Maybe there's room for improvement, or rather not improvement, but to find the ways in which it works for you, where it really clicks. And I think that is something very important. And it needs to click on a deeper level for each individual. And I think that can look a bit differently for each person. But I think by sharing these experiences, we can assist in reaching that area where it really just clicks for each and every single one of us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stefan. What a great lecture. I love this. The stuff is very powerful. And yeah, we're almost done. So there's one more left. What is lying ahead for us in the last presentation, Stefan?
So with the last presentation, we're going to focus in on a form of communication that we call a fast session. And it's not fasting like refusing food, even though fasting can be a healthy thing, but this is FAST type of communication. But we'll go into more depth within the next presentation.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Stefan. I'll see you then in the next video.
Awesome.